Welcome, 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 folks. Welcome. See your faces coming in now. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are so glad you're all here. And as usual, we start by inviting some guests from the more than just human world. I'm wondering if you can tell who it is I've invited today. Recognize that sound. That, my friends and folks, are the sounds of Ophidia, the folks in the animal kingdom that we generally refer to as snakes. Notice how it feels to hear them. For some of you, it may be a pleasant sound. For others, not so much. Did you know that about 3% of people actually have something called ophidiophobia, which is a disordered anxiety that can interfere with their well-being, an intense fear of snakes? And on the flip side, Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Aztec folks, Incas, Dogons, and Celtic wisdom traditions often revere slithering creatures for their spiritual connections. And so as we start today, as usual, we notice that snakes are a good reminder that culture and conditioning have a lot to do with how we see the different species we cohabitate this planet with. Welcome to Compassion Consortium Sunday Service. I'm Reverend Sarah Bowen, and I'm joined today by co-founders Reverend William Melton and Victoria Moran, and our wonderful team members, Phil, Elaine, and Jen. We also have two fascinating guests, Ellie Lax, founder of the Gentle Barn, a nonprofit organization that rescues and rehabilitates animals who've been abused and neglected. And we also have Ellen Felsenthal, founder and head of the herd at New Moon Farm Sanctuary. I have got to ask her how I become head of a herd. We also have animal chaplain Paula Newman with us today. In order to keep a contemplative feel for our service and to ensure we don't have unwanted disruptive guests who pop in, we've turned off most of the Zoom sharing functions. So if you're looking to use them, they're not there. If you're new to us, welcome though. We are so delighted you're with us, even if we can't see you. We are an interfaith, interspiritual, and interspecies community. Interfaith means we welcome and feature people of any spiritual or religious tradition or system of meaning making. Interspiritual means that we believe underneath all of those, all of the world's wisdom traditions and philosophies and spiritual paths and religions, there lies an access to a deeper unity we call spiritual experience. Interspecies means we believe that we want to have a truly inclusive spiritual community that rejects human superiority and considers the needs of all species. Yes, including Ophidia. Today, I'm speaking to you from my home habitat, but I'm preparing to travel over 3,100 nautical miles this weekend through the habitats of bottlenose dolphins, orca, ocean sunfish, basking sharks, and a creature I just learned about called the sea mouse. The sea mouse is a giant furry caterpillar that scurries along the seabed and can be seen in northwest England. I won't see one, but I like to know they're there. In addition to my excitement for ocean travel, I am also aware the cost of my travel puts on ocean creatures. That is not lost on me. Having seen the documentary Sonic Boom, I am well too aware of the challenges that ocean beings face in their habitats. And so I'm thinking a lot about what I can do to help protect animals in the oceans. Take a moment to consider as you join this room today. Who is in your habitat today? What needs do they have? What challenges do they face? I'm traveling to the UK because it's time again for the Oxford Center for Animal Ethics summer program with Andrew and Claire Lindsay. Y'all might remember Claire from earlier this year. She was a spiritual guest. This year, scholars from 19 countries, including India, China, Pakistan, Australia, Brazil, the US, Egypt, Canada, will be presenting papers about people who've shown impactful ethical sensitivity to animals. The lineup includes over 75 presentations focused on the wisdom of expected folks, right, like Gandhi and Tom Reagan, to feminist and Black perspectives, including Mary Midgley and Af Ko. I'm excited to hear presentations from Fang Zakai, Rosario de Acuna y Villanueva, and a lot of other folks whose names I am just learning to pronounce because I've yet to learn about them and their powerful contributions to animal protection. I'm excited to keep expanding my knowledge beyond a well-known handful of philosophers that we often talk about by default, where I'm located in the United States. And I'm excited to share what I learn with you. The globality of this conference is important. It lifts up regional and local perspectives that are critical to understanding the full range of animal issues that continue to be important issues in our planet's diverse habitats. Compassion Consortium will be offering a presentation on Jane Goodall's Bridging of Science and Spirituality, which we're very excited about. And I'm busy polishing up the final draft this weekend. There's a lot to unpack about how we talk about and promote conservation. We are delighted to be part of this well-respected and innovative group of scholar activists. And it's auspicious as we start today that I'm telling you about this on today, July 21st, because today is the celebration of Guru Purnima in the Jain and Hindu traditions. This is a day which celebrates the wisdom of our teachers and our lineages. A blessing for today goes like this. I bow down to my gurus and express my heartfelt gratitude for their guidance and their wisdom. May the light of knowledge and the blessings of your gurus illuminate your path and lead you to success and happiness. Let that sink in for a moment. How often do you celebrate your wisdom teachers? Today might be a great day to pop someone a note if they're still with us here on the planet, or to think of them in your mind if they are not, and let them know how much you appreciate the impact of their wisdom in your life. It's also Dhamma Day, observed by many Theravada Buddhists who celebrate this day, which was a Buddha's first teaching about the Four Noble Truths, about impermanence, the importance of the middle way, which says we should not be on the extremes, but find balance in between. And finally, it's also here in my habitat, a day that some folks refer to as the buck moon. It's the time when the new antlers of buck deer push up out of their foreheads in coatings of velvety fur. I think of the deer in my habitat as teachers too, although they'd probably not have any idea of the wisdom they offer me. Each morning, if I can wake up early enough, around 5:36 a.m., three appear outside my window. A munching mother whose slow steadiness I admire, and two little ones who go nutters running around in the field, bucking with what seems like so much playfulness and joy. So during my day, I try to keep a balance of this, the steadiness of attending to what I need to attend to, with playful spurts of excitement. There is a lot of heartbreak going on in the world right now. There is a lot of heartbreak and a lot of challenges, and finding balance can be challenging. Whatever your path or tradition is, our teachers' guidance and tools can keep us steady as we attend to the challenges and continue our work to reduce suffering and increase compassion for all who live on the earth. So as I wrap this up and we begin our service today, take another moment to consider, Who's been an important teacher along your path? What humans and other animals do you admire? And what traits do you see in them that you would like to cultivate in yourself? One of the people I admire in my life, and I learn oodles from, is our own Reverend William Melton, whose dedication to compassion for all creatures has inspired me since I met him. And lately, his fortitude in healing from recent challenges has inspired me even further. And so on that note, I'll pass the floor to Victoria.
Hi, everybody. I'm William's wife. I think a lot of you know, but some of you probably don't. And I just want to give you a little bit of a message from him and let you know what's going on with him. So for those of you who are newer, the Compassion Consortium came to William. It was an idea that just popped into his head, which I think are usually divine appointments. He was already studying to be an interfaith minister, and Reverend Sarah was his dean at One Spirit Seminary. See how things work out? And we were on a crosstown bus one day here in New York City, and this idea just started to form for William, and here we are now. So what has happened more recently, William has had some health challenges over the past few years, many of you know, but June the 9th, he fell, and they're not exactly sure why, but whatever happened to him, he was in very, very bad shape, unconscious, intubated in ICU for several days. And he is now out and he's walking and eating and all those, great things. But his speech was severely affected. He's used the word aphasia before because he had a little bit of that after a stroke in 2023. But it is quite severe. And nobody is working harder, I don't think, on anything. William spends 3 to 5 hours a day doing his vocal exercises, and he wants nothing more than to be back with you guys. So he is getting better every day. But early on, when things were not very good at all and he didn't have access to very many words, he said to me, "I can't even pronounce what I live for." And I said, "You mean Compassion Consortium?" And he said, "Yes." So he is here, he is listening, and we will take prayers, light, Reiki, good wishes, and whatever you guys are passing out until William can tell you that for himself.
All right. At the beginning of each Sunday service, we remind ourselves of the Tenets of Agreement, which our community strives to uphold. This month, the tenets will be read by Animal Chaplain Paula Newman.
We acknowledge a divine force at the heart of the universe, and in all living beings, we may refer to this force as God, but it is also known by many names and appears in different forms or formless. We recognize the common moral principles inherent within all wisdom traditions. We affirm that compassion, reverence for life, and nonviolence are fundamental to religious faith and moral philosophy and are to be extended to all sentient beings. We stand by the principles of inclusion, diversity, and equality and hold these as essential in our human relations. We hold that non-human animals are imbued with the same essence of life and love as are human animals, and that there is moral parity between us. We avow that humans do not own the earth, its resources, or its inhabitants, but instead must be involved in their protection and care. We endeavor to eat and live in a kind and a sustainable manner, moving away from animal foods and animal-derived clothing, as well as many activities that cause harm to our fellow beings, human or otherwise. We aim to provide spiritual comfort, fellowship, and food for thought for those practicing or exploring a vegan lifestyle. We offer guidance and peer support for all those seeking a more compassionate and spiritual life. And we commit to sharing these principles freely with humility and respect in support of non-human animals and the earth. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Paula. Folks, let those set in for just a minute. That's why we gather here. Appreciate seeing a different face each month, different member of our community reading them. So it's time for our interspecies practice. So we're talking a little earlier about balance and how do we get balance in the challenges in the world. Well, I'd like to offer you a contemplative meditation based on the 5 elements of Taoism today. So we're going to, many of the spiritual traditions of the world deal with different elements. And sometimes there's 4, sometimes there's 5, depending on which tradition you're in. We're going to be a little Taoist today. So if there happens to be any paper or writing stuff next to you, that might be useful today, because I'm going to ask some more questions like we started off. If not, you can just kind of think about things in your head. But if you have any paper, you're a journaler, you like to write post-it notes. I have a ridiculous stack here of thoughts I have while I'm on Zoom. But if you have anything near you, go ahead and grab that. And Phil, if you could bring up the elements slide, starting with the one that encourages us to take a deep breath. Beautiful. All right, folks, take a breath with us. We always like to have a little bit of a practice in addition to our listening and our talking around here. Just take a couple deep breaths and notice how you feel in your body. And we are going to start today with fire. Fire is associated with the summer. Anyone hot? Yeah. Fire is associated with the summer and with the heart. It's also associated with the bright vermilion bird. You ever seen that bright red bird? The motion of fire is expansion. Fire provides warmth and connection, enthusiasm, creativity, all those things that drive us. But too much or too little can cause our emotions to fluctuate. Too little fire might make us apathetic. We can't get off the sofa. Or it might make us cold emotionally to others. I don't care about your issue. I don't get your point of view. Too much can leave us hot-tempered, impatient, impulsive, and eventually exhausted. So bring your attention to your heart for a minute. You might close your eyes if that feels comfortable to you, or just keep them on the slide of fire. Think about your life right now. What doesn't have enough fire? What is that project you've been wanting to do? That email you've been wanting to send, or that person you've been wanting to reconnect with, that endeavor you've wanted to start doing? What needs a little fire? Make a mental or a written note of that. Sensing into your heart again, what feels like it's too hot? What has too much fire underneath it? Might you need to mend something after you sent a fiery email? Do you have someone you'd like to repair a relationship with because you got a little hot under the collar? Taoism is a little like Goldilocks, isn't it? Where is too much? Where is too little? What is just right? When we have too much fire, sometimes what we need is a little water. Water is stillness and harmony, effortlessness, sincerity, flexibility. Water is associated in Taoism with your kidneys and probably unsurprisingly your urinary tract, right? Your ears and your bones. Water is also the black tortoise. Water is the fountain from which wisdom springs. Not enough water leaves you parched, stuck, can't move, dammed up. Too much can mean you can't make a decision. You're flowing from here to there, here to there, here to there, never stopping. Anyone feel like that? Going, can't make the decision. Too much to choose from. Everything looks great or everything looks terrible. Consider how it feels. Close your eyes or look at the screen. What is it like to flow in your life? What is flowing? What is a runaway stream? What might need to be dammed up a little bit? Where are you in indecision? If you need help, metal clarifies water. Metal makes structure, integrity, firmness, clarity. It governs your lungs, your nose, and your skin. Metal is the white tiger. Its motion is inwards. Its energy is contracting in strength. Now, what do you think happens with too much metal? Rigidity, controlling, arrogant, set in our ways. I will not move. I am the north going Zax, I will not go south, to quote Dr. Seuss. That's metal. So bring attention to your lungs for a minute. Breathe in and out and draw your thoughts inward. Where are you too rigid? And where do you need firmness? You can find strength in other ways than just metal. So we move to our last two elements together in this contemplation: wood and earth. Wood is growth and strength, cooperative, optimistic. Out of balance, wood feels like you rained on my parade, I'm misunderstood, and I'm angry. Wood in balance grows, expands. The earth stabilizes wood. The earth shows patience, thoughtfulness, practicality, and hard work. But too much earth can bring greed and the desire for more and more and more and more and more. More growth, more growth. In balance, earth is nurturing, supportive, a foundation. So the final set of questions for you today, you contemplative types who like to think, sense into your intuition. Where are you being selfish? Uh-oh, something just popped up in my head and I think I have an apology to make. Where are you being selfish? What might bring that into balance? Do you need nurturing? We intend this group to be nurturing for you. As we close this practice, which if you'd like to go through any other time, you can find on YouTube. Phil cuts the practices out and puts them up on our YouTube channel. But as you are interacting with the elements, as you're taking your bath or shower, think about water. As you're cooking, think about fire. As you're outside walking, think about earth, wood. When you look up at the sky, at those skyscrapers some of us take a look at every day, consider metal, or the metal you wear, or the metal in your home. So we take a final breath together. I hope that's offered you something for contemplation. And now Victoria is going to offer us some more food for thought with our special guest. Victoria, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Reverend Sarah. Ooh, I feel all elemental. Okay, where is our special guest, Ellie Lax? If you could bring her up, Phil, so that we can all see her. I have been away for a bit, so it's wonderful to be back. Hey, Ellie. So many of you know of Ellie Lax if you are in the world of animal rights, because she is co-founder of the Gentle Barn Sanctuary, or actually sanctuaries. There's one in LA, one in Nashville, one in St. Louis. So she has had over 25 years experience up close and personal with animals. Now, usually in our special spiritual guest segment, we talk with someone about their spiritual tradition, usually in a recognizable religion. This is going to be a little bit different because the religion of the animals is yet to be named. But Ellie's first teacher actually was Buddha. So, Ellie, tell us a little bit about that relationship.
All right, Buddha is amazing. She's actually behind my right shoulder as we speak. She's always behind me. I have dreamt of the Gentle Barn since I was 7 because I knew in the core of my soul and in every fiber of my being that we're all the same. We're not different. We all kind of come into form and out of form, but we're all the same. So I am so excited to be here today. Buddha was my first cow. And I knew I was going to love her the same way that I would love every single animal that has come through the Gentle Barn since its inception. I knew she was very special that very first day, on that first open to the public Sunday, where people would gather and visit the animals. And because it was Buddha's first Sunday, I didn't know if she was going to be timid or scared or unsure. And I was at the ready to protect her and reassure her if necessary. And she boldly stepped right into the middle of the crowd, laid down, and beckoned everyone to pet her and brush her. My jaw fell to the floor as I watched this incredible being know exactly what our work was and how she was opening hearts. Later that evening, I had undergone a very, very long and stressful day. Of course, trying to get the Gentle Barn up off the ground, there were a lot of factors, right? So the people that were coming in, the animals that we were saving and rescuing and rehabilitating, the money that we needed to raise, there was a lot going on. And I sat down beside her at bedtime just to connect with her. And she wrapped her neck around me and held me and took me by surprise. I've had animals follow me and hold still for me and love me, but I've never had an animal act like my mother and actually hold me when I was stressed. And she held me like that for an hour, and I wept onto her shoulder. And I came to need those hugs every single day. And weeks later, I realized that the world needed those hugs too. And we rolled out what has come to be known as cow hug therapy at the Gentle Barn, where for the last 25 years, people from around the world, no matter what they're going through, can come and have those incredible, extraordinary embraces. And I think it was in that moment that Buddha really showed me the intelligence, the intuition, the healing grace that animals have for us.
And now it's all in your wonderful book, Cow Hug Therapy, How the Animals at the Gentle Barn Taught Me About Life, Death, and Everything in Between. So these are stories of animal teachers. Very often, I think that people like us, people who would be attracted to the Compassion Consortium, we read about animals, we read about the difficulties that animals have, we read about people who try to save them. But very seldom do we get a chance to see them from the point of view that you're writing about, which is animal as healer. And on this special Day of the Gurus, truly animals as gurus. So tell us where having a relationship with these special other than human beings fits into a human spiritual life.
I think these animals have so much to teach us and so many ways to heal us when we're looking with eyes wide open and hearts wide open, when we're connecting and really looking at what we're seeing. Sure, I think in a world when we're looking at animals as commodities or food or clothing, that's what we're going to see. But I'm sure everyone on here today sees animals with those wide open hearts to see who they really are and what they have to teach us. And my greatest teachers have always been animals. They teach us to meditate. Animals of all kinds always make time in their day to sit in the stillness and the quiet and get centered and grounded. It's not something that I was raised with. It's not something that I was ever taught, but it's something that the barnyard revealed to me when I opened the Gentle Barn in 1999. Those animals always took time for pause. They always took time to connect with their higher selves. And watching that, it drew me in, and I wanted to experience that bliss as well. And it's Buddha and the other animals at the Gentle Barn that actually taught me how to meditate and be still, to get grounded and centered and to find myself. And the more I found myself among the animals, the louder my intuitive voice became, the quicker I was able to make decisions, the more I was guided. And so it expanded me exponentially to be able to do my work and to find myself. Animals on a daily basis at the Gentle Barn teach about surrender and gratitude. We have rescued so many animals from the most horrific circumstances. And yes, they suffer, they're in pain, they're in fear. They have a lot of forgiveness and a lot of healing work to do. But the vast majority of them come into the Gentle Barn not with complaints, but with gratitude. Gratitude for the fresh food they get to eat for the first time, the clean water, the gentle hands, meeting us and realizing that we're different from the human beings they've met so far. They're so full of gratitude, and they really model that gratitude practice. I realized early on in my work that I had a choice to make. I could focus on the horrific, dark deeds of human beings that we were encountering, and the suffering that animals go through, or I could focus on the resilience. I could focus on the volunteers and the staff that were coming to the Gentle Barn to help us do the work. I could focus on the miracles and the blessings that these animals get second chances. And it really created in me a gratitude practice that I practice every single day, that I don't let my mind wander to the darkness and the evil, but I let my mind focus on the joy and the goodness and the peace and the resilience that exists in every animal that I've ever met. They also teach me about surrender. There are things we can control and things that we need to let go of. There are times to move our feet, and then there's time to let the universe, spirit, and God come and take over. And animals do that so remarkably well.
So tell us a little bit about cow society and also about the cow daily routine. I know meditation is a part of that.
I have come to believe that cows are everything that we should be and will be once we awaken fully to love. They are a matriarchal society led by the oldest and wisest female. And she doesn't rule by force. She rules with intuition, with kindness, with love, with connection, with collaboration, with communication. And she really bonds and connects to all members of her family and knows them intimately. They are vegan. They harm no one. They are a living legacy of peace and kindness. They are very aware of their environment, and their teeth and feet are designed to leave a pasture better off than when they found it. So they don't come and destroy on their way. They come and actually make the pasture better for them being there. They face their challenges head on. So they don't run away or panic when there are challenges. They lower their head, they look at their challenge, and they figure out a way around it or through it. They are 100% inclusive. So we have many animal species at the Gentle Barn, from horses down to little teeny chickens and ducks and turkeys and llamas and pigs and cows. And all the other animals, when we rescue a new member, their first instinct is to ostracize and to push away. And sometimes it could be violent and scary. And we have a very slow and long process to integrate that new animal in with their new family. Cows are our only species at the Gentle Barn. When we get a new member of the family, there's no introduction period at all. We just bring the cow into the pasture and everybody says, hi, welcome. And that new member of is an integrated part of the family within 5 minutes. They're 100% inclusive, and whether you're a human or another cow or another animal, as long as you're gentle, you are welcome. They meditate every single day, and family is their most treasured value. They care deeply about one another and go to great lengths to protect and to nurture each other. And I've seen them do absolutely magnificent and beautiful, miraculous things to celebrate birth and to honor somebody passing that I write about in my book.
Oh, that's so lovely. So I know that animals are intuitive. How can those of us who interact with animals in our homes, in our work or our outreach, how can we be more intuitive with them?
So first of all, I think that every single living being on this planet, including human beings, are intuitive. And I think that we've gotten taught and disciplined away from it. So, but if you look at all the other members of the animal kingdom, they all operate on intuition, and so do we. And so it's not a learning how to be intuitive, it's a returning and a remembering. So that's number one. We have to acknowledge that we are intuitive beings and we just need to return to it. The second thing that I would highly recommend is a daily meditation practice. When we are able to meditate every single day, sit in the stillness and the quiet and return to self, that's where the answers are. That's where the intuition lies. That's where we can really hear and feel and connect with one another more deeply than with words or with our eyes open. And so cultivating a daily meditation practice allows us to be more intuitive and more connected, and to recognize that still small voice when it comes. The third thing is I would recommend that people adopt a vegan lifestyle, because when we're eating gently and when we resonate with the energy of gentleness, then we're able to open up to everyone and not be closed off.
So you have so many great stories in the book. I love the quote from Moby. He says that this book, Cow Hug Therapy, helps us all fall more deeply in love with animals, life, and ourselves. And I would certainly echo that. So among the other animal people that you talk about in the book is somebody named Buttercup, who's also pretty special. Can you share that story?
Buttercup taught me a huge life lesson and changed the way that we walk animals home at the Gentle Barn forever. She came from an extreme cruelty case, and she welcomed our nurturing and healing. And then, unbeknownst to us, she was pregnant when we took her in. And so she ended up having a baby a few months later, who was born very small and weak and with underdeveloped lungs. Because he was at Sanctuary, we were able to work round the clock with our staff and volunteers to allow him to nurse and teach him how to walk till he grew big and strong. But he only lived 7 months. And I was trying everything that I could in the nursery with Buttercup and Halo to give him the best vet care, the greatest energy healing, trying everything I could to resuscitate this baby so that he could stay with his mom. And his mom was much wiser than I was. And instead of panicking and kind of trying so desperately to find an answer, she very quietly sat next to her son, whispered in his ear that it was okay to go, told him it was okay. And she literally groomed him and loved him while he took his last breath and passed away. And she taught me in that moment that when a loved one is passing away, it's not our turn to be sad or scared or desperate. We have to give our entire courage, our entire heart, and our entire focus on supporting that loved one so they can cross over peacefully and easily. And then we can have our feelings about it later, like Buttercup did after her son passed away.
That is such a profound story. As is what you said about meditating. You know, we think of the things that are taken away from animals in conventional situations, factory farming and so forth. And we don't think that in addition to the basic dignities that we're taking away their spiritual life or,
Yes.
trying to do that. So people who work with animals, and there are many of those present here, experience something that you have, and that is compassion fatigue. I know we had another conversation, and you talked about people who do this wonderful work as being sometimes riddled with hopelessness. So what does somebody do in a situation like that?
So I think the first step is to identify compassion fatigue, because it is a silent killer and you won't know it hit you until you've quit your job or ruined your marriage. You know, it creeps up on you, and it's so hard to identify. At least the first time I suffered compassion fatigue, I didn't know what was happening. But it was awful. And it took me months and months and months to recover. So I've become very adept at identifying when I'm feeling compassion fatigue. And just the identification of it alone can help bring back some of the hopelessness to keep going. The other thing about compassion fatigue is, as caregivers, as empaths, as intuitives, as people that give every ounce of our being away to others, when we're in crisis and we are on our knees with compassion fatigue, we don't usually have someone to turn to. And so it's really, really important for all caregivers and rescuers and healers and lovers of humans and animals for us to kind of put together a toolbox so that when we're in crisis, we don't have to think about it. It's already prepared for us. And so what I've done is I have a little toolbox where I have written the names of my therapists, my energy healers, my best friends, the people that I can turn to when I'm in crisis. So that's number one. That's really, really important, that everyone know where their number is and who to call so that you don't feel alone. The second thing is I've written down the 5 things that make me happy and bring joy to my life that are affordable and easy to do. Because when we're suffering compassion fatigue and we're feeling hopeless, we stay stuck. You know, I personally, when I'm feeling compassion fatigue, I get into a fetal position on the floor or in my bed and I can't move. But when I have that list of the 5 simple, easy things that I love that resuscitate me, I can pull out that list. I can choose to do one. And in doing one of the things, it will make me feel lighter and better. So my 5 things are walking in nature, meditating, being in the barnyard, spending time with a very, very close friend, someone who knows me the best, and a bubble bath. But create your own list of the 5 things that restore joy in your life and have them written down in your toolbox so that when you're in crisis, you can do those things and it'll pull you out of the depths of despair. And then the last thing is, when I'm suffering compassion fatigue, it's really hard to even acknowledge that I've done anything, because I'm staring at the face of the issues and the problems. I'm looking at all that has yet to be done. And it's hard for me to even acknowledge that I've done anything. So I've written down the top things that I've done up until now, so that when I'm suffering compassion fatigue, I can at least see, okay, all right, I've done something. I've done some good work. I've done some good things. Now I need to keep going. It's a reminder that change doesn't happen in a day and progress is slow moving, but we have done things and we need to continue doing them. The world needs empaths and caregivers now more than ever. And so when we're in the grasp of compassion fatigue, we have to be able to recognize it, heal it, and keep going so that we can keep giving.
Well, thank you. And one of the things that comes up for me that's very helpful is a really good book. And one of those is Cow Hug Therapy. So I hope that you'll all take a look. Thank you so much, Ellie, for being with us today at the Compassion Consortium. If you can stay for fellowship after, I know that the people in your group would feel really, really lucky. And if you have to go on and do other wonderful things in the world, we understand that too. All the best.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Moving on.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Compassion in Action. Today, we're speaking with Ellen Felsenthal, who is the founder and head of the herd at New Moon Farm, a sanctuary near Arlington, Washington. It's a small sanctuary, but it has a huge presence. And one of the things you feel when you first step on the land of that farm is the welcoming warmth and the caring. And that all comes from the heart of our next guest, who has a heart so big that once, at a moment's notice, she welcomed a huge group of more than 200 goats to the farm. I'm fortunate to call her a friend, and I'm just so glad she's here with us today. Thanks for joining us, Ellen.
Yeah, hi. It's a pleasure to be here.
So one thing I wanted to ask you, because you know how geeky I was when I first came, and what are goats like? What would non-goat people, like most of us are, what would we be surprised to learn about goats?
I think people generally think of them as these sort of goofy farm animals that'll eat anything and they headbutt everything, and they're not like that at all. They're incredibly intelligent, affectionate animals. They're so smart. They learn their names, they can learn tricks. I think they're easier to train than dogs. People just don't expect that, right? They have this silly tin can reputation. The reality is they're very picky eaters. The other animals on the farm tend to clean up after them. And they all just have such unique personalities, just like any other species. And when an animal comes to us that's kind of shut down from whatever they've experienced, getting to see them come out of their shell and show us their true self is just different than any other kind of animal I've worked with.
Are they the escape artists that they're rumored to be?
No. The reality is they just require really particular kind of fencing and setup. And I think most people get the animal first and then try to put up the facilities, and they end up bringing their goats to me because they don't know what to do because they're always getting out.
And I'm sure those goats are glad you're there when they come. Why, I know you have other animals on the farm as well, but why did you choose to primarily rescue goats?
It wasn't really a choice. It sort of happened because there was this hole in the rescue world. I was involved with cat and dog rescue and horse rescue, and goats kept coming up and nobody would take them because nobody had the right facilities. And I happened to have a couple of goats because I had rescued one from a petting zoo and one from a dairy. And so I just became sort of the default goat person. And then once I had 30 or so goats, I realized I had to do it differently. I either had to start adopting them out and finding homes, or I needed to say no. And so New Moon Farm happened, but it was never in the plan. I had no idea that goats were such incredible beings and that they would pretty much take over my life.
And for those of you, if you're ever fortunate enough to visit her farm, She, in certain times of the day, the goats, the horses, the sheep, the donkeys, everybody's together. It's like a little Garden of Eden in a pasture, and it's truly lovely to experience. So I wanted to ask you, and I know you're I know you have volunteers at the farm, but you are the primary caretaker. I think people would be interested to learn what that is every day. It is a tremendous amount of work.
Um, it is a lot of work, but it's really joyful work. I get up first thing in the morning and I go out to the barn and greet everybody. They all come running to the fence to see me. I'm sure it has nothing to do with the food I'm about to give them. But I give everybody breakfast. There's a few goats that are toothless, and so they get to come into the barn and eat their special mashes. And then while everybody's eating, I walk around and I do my herd check. I give everybody a little bit of attention and check them out for any issues that come up. And then we do the medicating. About half the animals here are on regular medication. And then I go to work because this is not my actual job. And then when I come home from work, I do it all again, feeding, medicating, taking care of health issues that come up, chores, fixing things, mending fences, all of that. And then I go inside and I do some work for my job. And then I go back out and do a herd check before bed. So my days are bookended with the animals, which is, it's just joyful. Yeah.
7 days a week, correct?
7
Even when you're
days a
not
week.
teaching college, the other 7 days are goats and horses and donkeys and sheep.
And on holidays and in the winter and all of it.
Yeah, it never stops. Can I ask you, I mentioned that you were a small rescue, but you have a large presence, and I know you live near a farming community. How do you have such a good and large presence in this area? Because you are known and people speak of
Right.
you and your organization glowingly.
Well, I think we got so well known because we were one of the first goat rescues in the country. When I started the rescue, there were a couple on the East Coast, nobody on the West Coast. And so we have been taking in goats from Southern California to Victoria, BC to Idaho, all coming into this area. Over the last 20 years, we've taken in almost 2,000 animals. Most of them found new homes, which is fabulous. We offer Goat 101 workshops where we teach people pretty much everything they need to know about having goats. We offer those workshops for free to animal control officers and staff and volunteers of other sanctuaries. And so the workshop is a big piece of it. And then we do free mini workshops at humane societies and shelters. Education's a really big part of our mission here. We want people to understand that these are, as this group knows, these sentient feeling beings. And I think the more people actually get to interact with the animals, the more that they see that and they shift towards a compassionate life.
So speaking of interaction, I know you have children in groups occasionally to the farm. I know that if somebody lives near Seattle, that they can volunteer at the farm, not ad hoc, but on a schedule. And so if anybody in the audience, if you live near Seattle, I would recommend that you and would like to volunteer, I recommend that you reach out to Ellen for either volunteer work or maybe your upcoming hay drive. There's a lot of things that they can help with. Does it take a special, do goats need a lot of room, or does it take a special type of person to rescue or become a foster family or to adopt a goat? What do you look for?
We recommend that people have at least 1/4 of an acre and that they have at least 2 or 3 goats. But all different kinds of people, just like all different kinds of people have dogs. The possibility is there if people have the space and the time, they're willing to put in the time.
Well, I'm certainly looking forward to getting to know your crew. I've got a big crush on Nigel right now. So
Me too.
anyway, so also one last question, and that I'd like to ask of most of our guests. What can all of us here today do when we leave this meeting? What can all of us do to make the world a more compassionate place for ourselves and animals?
I think it's as simple as treating everyone with compassion. Other people, we never know what's going on in their lives. I think we tend to judge people too quickly. Obviously, compassion for the animals. They are not here for our entertainment or our palate. And then self-compassion, I think, gets left out. We often think about the animals and the people, but we've got to be more compassionate with ourselves in order to spread that in the world around us.
Well, thank you for that. And thank you for being with us. I personally think you're one of the most compassionate people I've met, and I'm honored to call you a friend.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ellen.
It's been great.
Sarah, back to you.
Thank you so much. I'm sitting here trying to think of all the things that are running through my head right now about snakes and cows and foxes and goats and this amazing interspecies world we live in. We have had a lot of representation today of different species, and that's just fabulous to get the mind thinking about all of those different possible interactions and the challenges of them and the joys of them. Which brings us to blessings and prayers, to our joys and challenges, to attend to your joys and challenges. We want to start with 2 good news, and Phil is also going to open the chat so that you all can put in your good news and the things which you are challenged with and you would like blessings and prayers for. Here is my good news for you all this month. I am happy to report that in the news the last week from In Defense of Animals, the Oakland Zoo will relocate its last elephant, Osh, who is here on the screen, to a sanctuary this fall and then close its elephant exhibit. Yay, fanfare. It becomes the 41st zoo in the United States to close or pledge to close its elephant exhibit. Thank you to our friends at In Defense of Animals, to Lisa and the crew over there, and others who have helped raise awareness of how elephants suffer in zoo captivity. Unlike cows and goats, many of us don't have enough space for elephants. And so we are really, really grateful for those who are able to feed, house, attend to the veterinary care and all of that it takes to assist these elephants. Also, I'm delighted to give you a few Compassion in the World sightings from our animal chaplains. Phil, if you could bring up the next slide. I am so delighted about this. On the left-hand side, you'll see Shell Graves and Lars Pardo, who were featured on the front page of the Daily Herald in Everett, Washington, for their work supporting grieving animals. And this is really of interest to me because this article was on the front page. The headline is your dog or cat grieving? Now, we talk a lot about the grief that we as humans have, but one of the things, and that's very important to attend to, and we do that here, and our chaplains attend to that, but we talk a lot in our program also about the grief that animals have. We just heard about some grief around cows just a few minutes ago when Victoria and Ellie were talking. But that made the front page of this newspaper, which I think is great news, and also highlights the work of Shell and of Lars out there in Washington. On the right-hand side, you'll see Daniel Burek and Elise Marcatulli, who were featured in the Newcastle News in Pennsylvania. They run a veterinary practice. And in addition to running that practice, they're now offering monthly blessed send-off services at First Presbyterian Church. So animals will now be featured year-round at that church, not just at the traditional St. Francis Day offering. I think this is great news, and I love to see our animal chaplains out in the world raising awareness of animal issues and also attending to grief, to loss, and increasing compassion. So I also know there's a lot of stuff going on in the world that I can't have so much excitement about. And I know that some of you are dealing with your own losses or the anniversaries of losses. I'd like to bring into our blessings and prayers Phil's mother. Today is the anniversary of Phil's loss of the transition of his mother. And so just want to hold we hold a special place for Phil in our hearts. We add today his mother, because without his mother, there'd be no Phil. And without any Phil on the bridge right now, this would be a mess trying to put this together. So thank you to Phil's mom, wherever you are in the what's next. Also in the chat, I want to attend a few things. Oh, I love hearing from Debbie and the Gang of Fur. They would like us to please say a little prayer for Olga Fuga and Keith Dixon, people loved by people that Debbie and the Fur Gang love, who recently passed away. Also have very exciting news from Maureen McConaughey, or McConaughey. Bear with me on your last names, folks. Her book, Rescued, a collection of poems about rescued animals, is now available at Amazon. That's awesome. Maureen, put the link in the chat. We can never have enough poetry about rescued animals. Phil's mother's name was Adelaida. Oh, beautiful. Oh, beautiful. Thank you for that. To Jess, who's thinking of the animals in her habitat, who she's come to know, love, and feed for the last 3 years. She moves in 2 weeks, and she's feeling for her adjustment for those wild creatures and her adjustment to life without them. She did a ritual to honor their lives and a blessing for their well-being, continuing beyond her and her time in that habitat. How beautiful. Think about when we move and the grief and loss and the separation that can come with that. Beth asks us to give blessings and hugs to Phil and Phil's mother. Any other blessings or prayers or good news that you have? I'm holding you in my heart, my thoughts. This matters, folks. It matters to attend to these publicly, to attend to these together, to talk about those things we're so happy about, and those things that just break our hearts. And from Jeannie Joseph, another one of our animal chaplains, it was her first time helping 2 missing dogs be recovered using animal communication and working with a 3rd dog to help the missing dogs reorient their noses towards home. Awesome. So dogs helping dogs and Jeannie helping dogs helping dogs. 10 minutes after the session, they were found. Awesome. There's so many ways we can communicate with animals. We saw some music communication today. We heard about some cow hug communication and meditation today. We heard about communicating them in the morning and the afternoon. Yeah, ways to communicate. And for Lars, who I just mentioned in that article, there's a beautiful photo of Lars as Santa Claus. For Mac, beautiful, beautiful canine who lived with Lars until recently and is now in the What's Next. Judy has also been helping a family find sanctuary for their competition horse to retire for life. Yay! And not retire in the way that we don't like horses to retire. Yeah. And finally, to Joe and Derek, 2 senior goats who could use a little healing energy as they deal with their aging bodies. In the spirit of our interspecies practice today, I am sending Joe and Derek some of the good fire, to get them up and goating. Is that a word, Ellen? Goating? If not, I'm going to use it from now on, and I will. Goating, folks, goating. All right. If I did not mention your prayer, you are holding it within you because you don't want it publicly announced. Know that we are here to hold you in your suffering you can reach out to our animal chaplains at findanimalchaplain.com. Lots of goat puns in the chat, folks. Love them. I'm going to transition us to our final announcements before we head to fellowship. So if you would all join me in our closing prayer for all of those creatures, and goats and cows and foxes and dogs and cats and humans and Ophidia. May all creatures everywhere be happy and free. May the thoughts, words, and actions of our lives contribute to this happiness and this freedom for all. And please add whatever closing word is meaningful to you from your spiritual tradition, whether that be, may it be so. Amen. I mean, so mote it be. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. And with hopes of ahimsa. Phil, I have two announcements in the slides there. The first one that I would like to give you all is a new PayPal QR code. So there we go. If you enjoyed this service today, please know that we could use some help covering the cost of the event. Our spiritual team volunteers their time for planning and for bringing this service to you today, but we do have technology and other expenses to keep the lights on over here, and we appreciate your donations. You're helping keep this community thriving. You can also go to the link which is in the chat, or you can take your phone, stick up your camera, take a picture of that QR code, and it will go right to our donation page. Thank you for that. And now I will hand it over. Oh, that's right. YouTube. If you want to repeat something, if you want to try a practice again, try the blessing. If you want to hear, you want to send what you just heard from Ellen or Ellie to a friend of yours, like, hey, they love goats, they should hear this. Or, hey, they love cows and want to know about cow hugs. Use our links to our YouTube channel. There's lots of great stuff on there for you guys until the next Sunday service, or to share with others. Jen, now the floor is yours for the rest of our announcements, and stick around, folks, for fellowship. You might just get in a group with one of our special spiritual guests.
While I read a few announcements, Phil has given you all the opportunity to turn on your video cameras if you'd like. So we'd love to see all your beautiful faces as we close the service and move into our fellowship time. So please feel free to join us. This is in August, our special spiritual guest, Shad Groverland, ethical vegan, former CEO of Unity Worldwide Ministries, and founder of the Fillmore Church. Our Compassion in Action guest is Carol Saunders, who will be sharing about the Whole Planet Spirituality Forum and Retreat taking place in October. And we've got Join Victoria for a one-day self-care workshop titled Spiritual Self-Care with Ayurveda at Lily Dale, a spiritualist community near Buffalo, New York, on Friday, August 2nd. Details are in the link in the chat. And join us for the weekly online peaceful half-hour of vegan-oriented meditation and mindful sharing with David Simon every Monday. And at our Engaged Circle practice circle this month, Reverend Sarah will share her key takeaways from this year's Oxford Center for Animal Ethics Summer Conference for the Circle's consideration and a lovely conversation on quandaries in animal ethics. And if you, as Sarah mentioned, if you or someone you know has experienced an animal loss, visit findanimalchaplain.com to locate a chaplain near you. And join us August 8th at 6:30 Eastern for our monthly companion animal loss and grief peer support group.
Thank you, Jen. And thank you all for coming to Sunday service. We are so delighted to see you.